and I have already discussed about the theme, the central idea of the story. Okay, so today I am going to continue with the second part of the story, and the story is all about the life of Mukesh. I want to drive a car. Mukesh insists on being his own master. So Mukesh aspired to become his own master. I will be a motor mechanic, he announces. So Mukesh announced that he wanted to be a motor mechanic. So I am going to write down all the word meanings. Insist means aspired. So Mukesh too had a dream. Okay, he aspired to become his own master. He wanted to be a motor mechanic. Do you know anything about cars? I asked. So the author, the narrator of the story, asked Mukesh that whether he knew anything about cars. I will learn to drive a car, he answered. Mukesh replied that he would definitely learn to drive a car, looking straight into my eyes. So he answered it with quite confidence. His dream looms like a mirage amidst the dust of streets that fill his town, Firozabad, famous for its bangles. So Firozabad is famous for making bangles. So his dream, Mukesh's dream to become a motor mechanic, it just looms like a mirage. What is mirage? Mirage is an illusion. Sometimes we can see it in the sea or in the desert. So what is the meaning of mirage? An illusion, sometimes seen at sea or desert. Okay, so mirage is an illusion. So his dream, Mukesh's dream also looked like a mirage. Okay, his dream was far away from the reality, and his dream would gradually get influenced by the dusty streets of Firozabad. And Firozabad is in an important town which is involved in making of bangles. Every other family in Firozabad is engaged in making bangles. So each and every family in Firozabad, they are involved in making bangles. It is the center of India's glass blowing industry. So Firozabad is the main center of India's glass blowing industry. Glass blowing means related to making of glass. Okay, glass blowing means related to making of glass. So Firozabad is an important center of glass blowing industry, where families have spent generations working around furnaces. So each and every family in Firozabad, they have spent generations after generations, they were involved in making of glass bangles, and they used to work throughout the day in front of the hot furnaces, welding glass. They used to join the glass, making bangles for all the women in the land, it seems. So it seems that they used to make bangles for all the women in the world. Welding means joining glass. Welding means joining. Okay, so throughout the day their families used to involved in making of bangles in front of the hot furnaces. They used to join the glass bangles and they transform into make a bangle for all the women in the world. Mukesh family is among them. So Mukesh family is also involved in this making of bangle. None of them know that it is illegal for children like him to work in the glass furnaces with high temperatures in dingy cells without air and light. Dingy means dark. So Mukesh family is also involved in making of bangles, and they were fully unaware that it is illegal, means unlawful for children to work in the glass furnaces with extreme high temperature, and they used to work throughout the day in a dark room without any ventilation, that means without any air and light. That the law, if the law would be enforced, could get him and all those 20,000 children out of the hot furnaces where they slog their daylight hours, often losing the brightness of their eyes. Slog means to work hard. Slog means to work hard. So, if the law would be enforced, then they could rescue not only Mukesh but also 20,000 children, those who used to work in front of the hot furnaces and they used to work hard throughout their daylight. Often that leads to the loss of the power of their sight. They will eventually lose the brightness of their eyes. Mukesh's eyes beamed as he volunteers to take me home. So Mukesh was elated to take the author to his home, which he proudly says is being rebuilt, and he also informed to the narrator that his house had been renovated. We walked down stinking lanes. Stinking means bad odor, or you can say bad smell. So they were moving towards their house and they were walking down the lanes which were blocked with garbage, and the foul smell was coming out from there. Past homes that remain hovels with crumbling walls, ugly doors, no windows, crowded with families of humans and animals coexisting in a primeval state. So they were walking down the lane where the garbage was heaped off and the bad smell was coming out from there. Even they were passing a line full of slums with crumbling walls. The slums were unsteady with crumbling walls, means walls were falling down. Ugly doors, the doors were unsteady, there were no windows, and the full slum was crowded with families of humans and animals. Just it looked like they were living together just like in the primeval state. Primeval state means prehistoric state. So I am writing down the meanings. Hovels means slums. Crumbling means falling down. Ugly means unsteady. Permeable means prehistoric time. So the families, those who were living in the slum area, and their houses were just falling down, the walls of the house were falling down, and they were having unsteady doors, no windows in the slum houses, as if they were living in the primeval state, as if they were living in the prehistoric state, just like the humans and animals used to live. He stops at the door of one such house, bangs a oblique iron door with his foot. So Mukesh stopped at the door of one such house and he hit the unsteady iron door with his foot and pushed it open. We enter a half-built sack. Sack means a roughly built hut. Sack means a roughly built hut. So they enter a roughly built hut. In one part of it thatched with dead grass. So in one part of the hut it was thatched with dead grass, is a firewood stove over which sits a large vessel of sizzling spinach leaves. So there was a firewood stove in the hut and a large vessel of spinach leaves was kept on the fire. On the ground in large aluminium platters are more chopped vegetables. So on the ground there was a large aluminium plate and chopped vegetables are kept inside it. A frail young woman is cooking the evening meal. Frail means thin and weak. Frail means thin and weak. So who was cooking the meal, the evening meal? A thin, weak young woman was cooking the evening meal for the whole family. Through eyes filled with smoke she smiles. So though her eyes filled with smoke emanated from the firewood stove, but she was cheerful and smiled to see the author. She is the wife of Mukesh's elder brother. So who was she? She was the wife of Mukesh's elder brother. Not much older in years. She was not much older in years than Mukesh. She has begun to command respect as the Bahu, the daughter-in-law of the house, and she was worthy enough to get respect as Bahu because she was the daughter-in-law of the house, already in charge of 3 men. So she used to look after or took care of 3 men, her husband Mukesh and their father. When the older man enters, she gently withdraws behind the broken wall and brings her veil closer to her face. So when the older woman just entered the hut, she gently moved behind the broken wall of the hut and she brought her veil closer to her face. As custom demands, because this is the tradition, this is the custom, daughter-in-law must veil their faces before male elders. So this is their tradition that a daughter-in-law must veil, they must cover up their faces with a veil before the male elders in the family. In this case, the elder is an impoverished bangle maker. So what is the meaning of impoverished? Impoverished means very poor. Impoverished means very poor. So the elder one who just entered the hut, he was a very poor bangle maker despite long years of hard labor. So he had been working hard for so many years, first as a tailor. First he was working as a tailor, then a bangle maker, then he took the profession of bangle making. He has failed to renovate a house and he had failed in his entire life to repair a house, send 2 sons to his school, and even he had also failed to send his 2 sons to school. All he has managed to do is to teach them what he knows. So what he had done in his entire life, he had managed to teach his 2 sons how to make bangles. All he has managed to do is to teach them what he knows, the art of bangle making. So he is a total failure in his life. He could not able to renovate a house. He could not able to send his 2 sons to school. All what he had done, he had managed to teach his 2 sons how to make bangles. It is his karam, his destiny, says Mukesh's grandmother. So Mukesh's grandmother commented that it was his destiny that he took the profession of bangle making, who has watched her own husband go blind with the dust from polishing the glass of bangles. Even Mukesh's grandmothers had seen that her own husband went blind from the dust which used to come from the polishing the glass of bangles. Can a God-given lineage ever be broken? She implied. So she commented that profession that is carried on through generation could ever be broken. Born in the caste of bangle makers, they have seen nothing but bangles. So they were born in the caste of bangle makers. They have seen nothing in their entire life but only bangles. Bangles in the house, in the yard, in every other house, every other yard, every street in Firozabad. So they have seen bangles everywhere in Firozabad, not only in their house, in the yard, but in every other house, in each and every family of Firozabad, every other year. So each and every yard, every street in Firozabad, because Firozabad is well known for making bangles. Spiral of bangles, they have even see different colorful bangles, just like the rainbow colors, sunny gold, paddy green, royal blue, pink, purple, every color born out of the 7 colors of the rainbow. So they have not only seen in different places, but also they have seen different colorful bangles, just like the 7 colors of the rainbow, lie in mounds in unkempt ears. Unkempt means empty. Empty, or you can say unused. So the heap of bangles, the spiral bangles, they are heaped in unused ears or unkempt ears. They are also piled on 4-wheel handcarts pushed by the young men along the narrow lanes of the shanty town. Shanty means small. So they have not only seen the bangles in each and every street or each and every yard or each and every house in Firozabad, they have also seen the mounds of spiral bangles that were kept in unkempt ears. Even they were piled on 4-wheeled handcars, and these handcars were pushed by the young men to sell these bangles, these colorful bangles, along the narrow lanes of this small town of Firozabad. And in dark hutments next to lines of flames of flickering oil lamps sit boys and girls with their fathers and mothers welding pieces of colored glass into circles of bangles. So in the dark hut next to the lines of flickering oil lamps, children, means boys and girls, they used to sit with their father and mother, and they also involved in making or joining the pieces of colored glasses into circles of bangles. So the children also used to help their father and mother, and they used to sit in front of the flickering oil lamps. Their eyes are more adjusted to the dark than to the light outside. So obviously they used to work throughout the daylight hours in this dark hovel, and their eyes are more adapted to the dark rather than the light outside of the day. That is why they often end up losing their eyesight before they become adults. So what happened after that? They used to just walk throughout the day in the dark cells, and they lose their eyesight before they gaining their adulthood. Sabita, a young girl in a drab pink dress, drab means faded. So Sabita, a young girl who is wearing a faded pink dress, he sits alongside an elderly woman. She was sitting along with an elderly woman soldering pieces of glass. So she was also involved in joining pieces of glass. Soldering means joining. Soldering means joining. So Sabita was also involved in making of glass bangles. As her hands moved mechanically like the tongs of a machine, I wonder if she knows the sanctity of the bangles she helps make. So her hands moved very fast, just like the tongs of a machine, and the author wondered if she know the bangles were so sacred. She was making those bangles, and it symbolizes an Indian woman suhag, auspiciousness in marriage. So this glass bangles symbolize a good woman in conjugal life or in marriage. It is a good symbol. It will dawn on her suddenly one day. So she would realize it suddenly one day when her head is draped with a red veil, her hands dyed red with henna, and red bangles rolled onto her wrist. She will then become a bride. So when she would get married, and she would drape her head with a red veil, her hands would dyed red with henna, and she would wear red bangles rolled onto her wrist. Then she would realize the sanctity of the bangles and how much the bangles are sacred to the Indian woman, and they symbolize a good omen in conjugal life. Like the old woman beside her who became one many years ago. So this old woman who was sitting beside Sabita, she was also became a bride many years ago. She still has bangles on her wrist. She was wearing bangles on her wrist, but no light in her eyes. But she lost her eyesight because she was involved in making of bangles. Ek waqt server khana bhi nahi khaya, she says in a voice drained of joy. Ser is an unit of measuring quantity. A unit of measuring quantity. She says in a voice drained of joy. She has not enjoyed even one full meal in her entire lifetime. That's what she has reaped. So what she has got in his entire life, what she has recovered in her entire life, she did not receive any benefit. She did not enjoy even a full meal throughout her entire life because she was very poor. Her husband, an old man with a flowing beard, says, I know nothing except bangles. All I have done is make a house for the family to live in. So, her husband, an old man with a flowing beard, he replied that he did not know anything other than bangles. All he had done to make a house for the family to live in. So probably man like him, he had achieved something while many other people had not been able to achieve. Hearing him, one wonders if he has achieved what many have failed in their lifetime. So what he has achieved, what that old man has achieved, he has already make a house, and that is the shelter for the family to live in. But many other like him, they did not able to achieve anything. He has a roof over his head. At least that old man had made a shelter over their head. The cry of not having money to do anything except carry on the business of making bangles, not even enough to eat, rings in every home. So all the house, they are having the same problem. The problem was prevalent in each and every house, that they were very poor, they did not have any money, or they did not have enough money to buy their necessary things like food, clothing and shelter. They know, and they only knew the business of making bangles. The young men echo the lament of their elders. The young men also involve their old traditional profession of their ancestors, and they also used to repeat the same complaint just like their fathers and forefathers. Little has moved with time, so nothing has improved with time, it seems, in Firozabad. So in Firozabad, maximum families, they were poor. Most of the families were poor, and nothing has improved with time. Years of mind numbing toil. Mind numbing means boring, toil means physical work. So all the families were involved in this boring work of making bangles, and toil means hard work. So the families were involved in making bangles throughout their life. They did not have anything else to do. Years of mind-numbing toil have killed all the initiative and the ability to dream. So they were working hard for so many years, and that's why they have killed all their ability to achieve something, to dream something, and they have also lost their ability to dream of something else. Why not organize yourself into a cooperative? So the narrator asked them that why they were not organizing themselves into a cooperative. I asked a group of young men who have fallen into the vicious circle of middlemen who trapped their fathers and forefathers. So the narrator asked a group of young men who had already fallen, who had already trapped in the cruel circle of middlemen, who had already trapped their fathers and forefathers also. So vicious means cruel. Vicious means cruel. This is a never-ending process. They will eventually trap into this circle of a web, or better to say a web of middlemen who had already trapped their fathers and forefathers. Even if we get organized, we are the ones who will be hauled up. Hauled up means dragged. Dragged or taken away. So even if we get organized, we are the ones who will be hauled up by the police, beaten and dragged to jail for doing something illegal. So if they would think of something else, if they would dare to achieve something else, then they will be dragged up by the police, they would be beaten without any reason, they would be dragged to jail for doing something illegal, for doing something unlawful, so they would be accused by the police for doing anything else. There is no leader among them, so there is no leadership among them, no one who could help them see things differently. So nobody was there, nobody could help them to achieve things differently. Their fathers are as tired as they are. So their fathers, their forefathers, they were also tired just like this young man. They talk endlessly in a spiral that moves from poverty to apathy to greed and to injustice. Spiral is a continuous process. Spiral means a continuous process, and apathy means lack of concern. Spiral means it's a continuous, here it means a continuous process, and apathy means lack of concern. So the poor condition of this family led to lack of concern for their problem, and this made them greedy and led to injustice. Listening to them, I see two distinct worlds. What are the two distinct worlds the author found? Distinct means separate. Okay, distinct means separate. So the author noticed, or the author envisioned, two separate worlds. First world is one of the family caught in a wave of poverty. So one of the families stuck in the wave of poverty, burdened by the stigma of caste in which they are born. So, and the other vicious circle of the stalkers, the middlemen, the policemen, the keepers of law. So the first one is, and the first world will be the one of the family which was stuck in the wave of poverty and the pressure of doing their traditional profession according to the caste where they were born, and the other one was a never ending cruel circle and the web trap which was trapped by the stalkers, the middlemen, the policemen, the keepers of law, the bureaucrats. Bureaucrats means government officials. Bureaucrats means government officials. So in one world they were burdened, they were pressurized of doing their traditional profession of bangle making according to their caste where they were born, and the another circle is the never ending cruel circle which was trapped by the stalkers, the middlemen, the policemen, the keeper of the law, the government officials and the politicians. Together they have imposed the baggage on the child that he cannot put down. So both this world had been forced the boys to follow the family traditions. Okay, so both these two distinctive world forced this young boys to follow the family tradition. Before he was aware, he accepted it as naturally as his father. So he accept the profession, their traditional profession of bangle making before he get aware, just like his father. To do anything else would mean to dare. So if he wanted to do anything else, it would something courageous. They could say that they could not dare to go against their society. So it would be a dare work for them to go against their society. And daring is not part of his growing up, and he has not reared up with so much courage. When I sense a flash of it in Mukesh, when the narrator understood the flash of something dared to do in Mukesh, I am cheered. So the narrator became cheerful, the narrator became happy that at least Mukesh had this flash of dareness to do something. I want to be a motor mechanic, he repeats. So again he repeated the same thing that he wanted to become. He aspired to become a motor mechanic. He will go to a garage and learn, but the garage is a long way from his home. He also said that he would go to a garage and learn, though the garage was a long way from his home. I will walk. So rather he would walk to learn something from the garage. He insists, do you also dream of flying a plane? He is suddenly silent. So when the author asks that whether he would also dream of flying a plane, he became silent. No, he says, staring at the ground. In his small murmur there is an embarrassment that has not turned into regret. So he said no, he did not aspire to fly a plane, and he was a little bit embarrassed, and it has not turned to regret. He is content to dream of cars. He is very satisfied and he aspired to dream of cars because he sees hurtling down the streets of his town. Actually he is used to see the moving around the cars, around the cars were moving around the streets of this town. Few aeroplanes fly over Firozabad. So he aspired to dream of cars because he used to see the cars were moving around the streets of this town. Hurtling down means moving around. Hurtling down means moving around. So he aspired for something that he usually see in the streets. He used to see the cars which were moving around the streets of this town. Rather, few aeroplanes fly over Firozabad. So this is all about the story of Mukesh. Here also in this story we have seen the plight of street children, and they were forced into child labor in their early phase of life, and they were denied the opportunity of schooling. I hope you have understood the story. Keep learning. Thank you.